getting to our prep. Yeah. It's like, what? You know what I mean? So you're like pulling guinea hens out of the salt, like right before you go to sear them, and it's wet and it's like not coming out right. You're like, fuck. You know, so it's definitely, I tell you, like the best moments of my life and the worst moments of my life all balled into one event.
Yeah.
That is fucking.
I feel you, man.
But I liked it because it showed me to like accept embarrassment. Mm-hmm. Just like live in embarrassment. You know what I mean? Like, because what are you going to do after you get fucking roasted in the first turn? You know, you got to clam up and shut down, or you're going to fucking fight.
I think that's a really important point, man.
Yeah.
Like embracing the suck.
Yeah.
Because I think that we're losing a lot of that in just society at large, of like the ability to process that feeling and move on from it. And,
exactly.
Where there's so much attention and resources and focus to avoid that situation.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a powerful lesson. There can be a powerful lesson.
Yeah. I mean, you know, as chefs, we get rated every day. But now we got Yelp and TripAdvisor, so it's like everyone that comes in here is a chance for a negative review. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a chance for a positive review, but I think as chefs, we're like...
We don't care about those.
We don't give a fuck about those, you know? And the thing that I learned from Costow is, like, you got to look at that Yelp thing, you know, a grain of salt kind of deal, but if you start seeing the same complaints over and over and over, and it's a trend complaint, then maybe you should take a look inside and be like, okay, well, what... Maybe it is this way. Maybe we should look into it, you know. For anybody that looks...
Healthy. Yeah. Because that's taking productive criticism in a proactive way.
Exactly. I think a lot of times as chefs, we're like, well, no, this is the way it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And it's like, at the end of the day, we're humans, just like that person that doesn't like it in the kitchen. So it's like, you know, so what are you going to do? Let's get into you, Chef, because cool. I don't do any previous research here because I want to learn everything from you and just talk about it that way. So we're going to take it all the way back. Obviously, you're at Avenue M now in Asheville. How long have you lived in Asheville?
Well, I moved back here in January of 2020. Okay. And this area of the country is where I grew up. And I started my career in Asheville at the Grove Park here years ago.
Okay.
And left for California 2011. So the goal is to come back and put roots down here and get involved in the culinary scene and have a project and contribute. Put my roots down and settle here.
Yeah.
So
understood. Very cool.
That was when that happened.
Yeah. So you said you were born around this area?
I was born in Hendersonville, or Fletcher, technically, about 20 miles south of here, 15, 20 miles south of here.
Okay. What was that upbringing, like small town?
Yeah. My mom is an Asheville native, and when we were born, my sister and I, she convinced my dad to move to Hendersonville, mm-hmm. which is, again, about 20 miles south of here. And it's largely a retirement community. It's really small town, really conservative.
Yeah.
And so it was a really insular environment. You know, we were working class, and so it was normal small town America stuff. Everybody's bored. The kids that are gonna get in trouble are generally just gonna do drugs and
exactly
and skateboard and like whatever. For me, I was always really introverted. And I drew a lot when I was a kid and wrote and stuff. And when I was a teenager, I really got super heavy into music.
Okay. What sort of music?
Well, I started out playing the trombone in band and excelled at that in a lot of different ways. And I ended up going to college for jazz trombone as a major, and that was like
hell yeah.
What I saw myself doing is just being some session dude.
Got you.
Just like playing and making whatever money I made.
Got you. So you weren't like, I'm gonna be the rock star.
Well, early on, I thought about like symphonic playing and that kind of a thing, but that scene never really like spoke to me.
Yeah.
But even that is no. I didn't think about like being some star musician. I thought about practically making a living.
Yeah.
Being being a musician and doing something creative, and doing it in that way.
Gotcha.
You know, and I had a really bad experience when I went to college at the North Carolina School of the Arts.
Gotcha.
And that really just soured me from like fucking with it at all.
Yeah.
You know?
Music in general?
Well, for a period of time, yeah.
Gotcha.
And especially the kind of track that I set for myself. I saw too many barriers, and it was just it sucked a lot of the passion out of it.
Gotcha.
You know.
What was it, if I may ask?
Well, I went there under the pretense that I was going to help with their jazz program. They had a jazz band and this kind of thing. And when I got there, it was a few weeks after I got there that they told me that they did not have a jazz major. Even though I had placed out of AP Music Theory 3 in high school, that I had to take Music Theory 1.
What?
And start over, as if music theory had changed in the previous 350 years. And that I had to buy a larger bore concert trombone and participate in the symphonic program. None of those things were
appealed to you.
Well, and it's not that they didn't just appeal to me. None of those things were made privy to me before I paid all this money to go and commit to going to this college. I could have gone anywhere. Yeah. You know, that I wanted to, based off of my ability, and I had decent grades. You know. Yeah. I had to have I wasn't valedictorian or anything, but I had good enough grades to get in whatever school that I wanted to, with the help of my music, you know. Yeah. And so that just really, really upset me, and kind of soured me that okay, well, this is just how people operate with regard to this. Yeah. You know. So
I can understand that feeling when you think you did everything right. I signed the applications and I came here and I did all these things.
I came here in good faith, honest about what it was that I was trying to pursue, and I felt taken advantage of.
Of course, yeah. And then from an institution like a college, you're well, what the fuck?
Yeah, you guys are supposed to be adults.
The people have their shit together.
Yeah. So I really, around that time, after at the end of high school and going into college and stuff, I was really having a lot of massive personal issues, as every teenager does.
Of course.
And I did not feel ready to go to college. I really wanted to take a year and kind of get my head together and reassess as I felt like I was on this track, and it was this momentum was carrying me places that I was a passenger in, that I was no longer operating under my full agency kind of thing. And that kind of stuff. And the thing about that, my parents were well, you're going to lose your health insurance if you're not a full-time student. Yeah. So you gotta do this, and that was more important at that time than what my mental health was like. Exactly. And it just contributed to this okay, well, fuck it sort of thing. Of attitude. And so I was only at School of the Arts for 2 semesters, and dropped out. And the next few years were pretty hazy, heavily substance-oriented, fucking off as a kid.
Yeah, heard that. Did you have a job at that time?
I had a few, but I wasn't doing anything serious. Uh-huh. I was just trying to play in punk bands and drink beer and fuck off and have a good time, kind of thing. No future, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
And because that was a big part of my personality as a teenager. Was fuck you, leave me alone. Anti-establishment kind of stuff. Yeah. And so this whole thing happening with the college was a perfect narrative that fit into that of this institution destroying what the only thing that I had that I loved in the world. You know what I mean? So what better way to celebrate that than destroy yourself?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So maybe a year and a half later or so, I ended up going to rehab, and it was when I came out of it. I right up leading up into it, I was working at a restaurant and I was serving, And for whatever reason, I just really enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed the environment. And
Yeah.
people and you know, going to work at 4:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Get drunk. And,
Exactly.
You know, like the whole thing.
And people are up with you at 3 a.m. and you're like, this is great.
Yeah, like,
it's like my people.
These are my people.
Yeah.
You know? And so when I got out of rehab, one of the big things that people teach you when you're kind of transitioning back into society sober is that you know, you got to change all your people, places, and things and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I really like working in restaurants. Maybe if you know, I don't think I can serve alcohol to people and stay sober. What if I learn to cook?
Yeah.
And so my thought process was that like I could learn a set of skills, and I could have the ability to get a job wherever I chose to go and pursue music in my spare time. I could have
Both.
you know, I could have the thing that would pay the bills, allow me to keep playing in stupid bands and you know, and just being happy in that way. You know?
Yeah.
And so my first kitchen job out of rehab was at Bonefish Grill here on Tunnel Road in Nashville. And Bonefish is part of the Outback Steakhouse group.
Okay.
You know? And it was weird and corporate, and there was a lot of people and a lot of personalities, but like
They give you a packet. They're like, here's your SOPs.
I fucking dug it, man.
Yeah.
You know, still to this day, the worst cut I ever got in my whole career was at Bonefish.
Okay.
You know, they had I was working back prep one night, and they had a steamer that we would take the she crab soup and put the bags of that in the steamer, and then put it in a Bain Marie and add some sherry to it. And I dropped the bottle of sherry and tried to catch it, and it like bounced, and half of it just slashed my hand open. And it was like in the middle of a Saturday night. I had to throw a glove on and put a couple of rubber bands around it and deal with it later, you know. But that was, you know, what I responded to was just the work, you know, of like this high anxiety, high tension environment that felt rewarding at the end of the day, like doing something productive. You know, it really did something for me. And so I moved from there to the Grove Park Inn, where I worked for 3.5 years, something like that. And I worked at mainly at Sunset Terrace, which was this really high volume steakhouse that has this beautiful view of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Mm. And just a steakhouse menu. People didn't come there for the food, you know what I mean? Like they came there to sit on this balcony and you know, have this experience and all that. And what that place taught me was how to move fucking fast, you know, because like you were gonna do 350 covers in you know, busy nights, and like it just, you know, you had to fucking make it happen. Mm-hmm. You know. And I still was like really responding to that like I really I was really engaged by that, by this like not everybody could do it, you know. I would like that part of it was appealing to me, you know. And around this time it was when I first met Sean Brock. He came to do a wine dinner with Dwayne, who was the chef at Horizons, which was the fine dining outlet at Grove Park. They were roommates back in culinary school in Charleston, and he was doing a dinner there with Sharp Larson and a couple other people, and Sean came into the kitchen at Sunset Terrace for whatever reason, I can't remember. And I remember the first time I ever saw him. This is a white toque resort. Everybody wears paper hats every day. And the whole thing, and the waist aprons and whatever. And you know, I had just kind of begun, like right before this, seeking knowledge about the culinary industry. Like, okay, this is cool. Like, what else is out there? Mm-hmm. And kind of, you know, doing some research about it. I just discovered, you know, Bon Joing Lee's blog. You know, John Sconso and those types of people, like in the, you know, early 2000s, that were really talking about high-level restaurants, you know, and so I was just kind of like getting some awareness that like, okay, there's a place where I can do this work and pursue it in a much higher level, you know, and learn much more, and you know, see all this stuff. And so, you know, Sean comes in and the first time I ever saw him, he had a ball cap on and red